Oh, hey, you're here. Oh, I'll be right back. Oh yeah, and I feel like an idiot too. I didn't know the camera was on. Eh. Um, Disregard the beginning of this video. I wanted to talk to you about a little bit of something, and that is doing your due diligence in the fish keeping hobby, in your aquariums. What are some tips and tricks that I can give you to help avoid disaster? Well, I got a few of them. So let's jump right into this. So you hear all these stories about heaters failing and they didn't know it, or filters stopping and burning up. There's a few things you can do to avoid this disaster, because I actually have somebody that I know that kept an aquarium and stopped doing it because his house burnt down due to a hang on the back stopping and catching on fire. If you've ever seen the hang on the backs, if you're not maintaining the impeller and they get hung up and stopped by too much debris or sand, the water in there gets pretty warm. And if it keeps going long enough under the right condition, these things could obviously catch on fire. Now, this was an older filter and it was years ago. We do have advancements, but the design of these filters are still the same. Impeller and a motor with a pump to bring up water to filter it. Heaters, same thing. These things are constantly turning on and off to regulate the temperature you have set in your aquarium. These internal switches, 9 times out of 10, are what fail, and it's either going to get stuck on or it's going to get stuck off. So it's either going to get too cold or it's going to get too hot. Depending on the fish species you have, it could be a problem either way. So I'm going to go through a couple of things that I do every morning and every night to ensure that I'm keeping track of both of these components in my aquarium. So walk with me around my fish room and I'll show you what I do. So in the winter months, I have to put heaters in my aquariums. Obviously, I don't have a heater in this aquarium because it's a goldfish tank and they're cold water. My house does not regulate the temperature that it needs to be around that 75 to 78 degree range. Sometimes 80 degree for certain fish. It just does not regulate that in the winter months. So I plop the heaters back in. In the summer months, I don't have to worry about it. I can take my heaters out. My house regulates that temperature. So obviously, I don't have to worry about heaters in the summertime. But what I like to do is I have a canister filter on all of my tanks. And I also, on each tank, have a hang on the back filter. And the reason why I do this is because if one fails, I still have backup filtration. And two, if I feel the need to use chemical filtration, or if I have to put carbon in my tank to remove meds after medicating or something like that, it's much easier to do chemical filtration in a hang on the back filter than it is to have to crack open a canister filter every time you want to do it, just to change one thing, because my canister filters go months without needing cleaned. So it kind of gives you a tap into your aquarium to do things like that easier if you run canister filters, or if you already run hang on the back filters. Most like you're going to have a couple of them on your tank, you already got the ease of that. So now I'm going to show you what I do every morning and night to ensure that my filters are running, they're running properly, and my heaters are working. Now, in addition to having mercury thermometers in each tank, because they're cheap, they're always in there, they're never going to fail, and maybe you use one of these, like I'm going to show you, a temperature gun. Maybe the battery fails and you don't have time to get battery, or maybe it's broke. You still always have that backup thermometer in your tank to regulate that temperature. But this bleeds into what this video is about: a flashlight, a temperature gun. I can go around each tank morning and night, zap it with this, and this is Cobalt's one from Lowe's, and it is pretty accurate with my in-tank mercury thermometers. And I can go around to each tank real fast and see what the temperature is. At night, obviously, I go around, I take the flashlight, I look at my filters and make sure they're still running and running correctly. When I say running correctly, your filter can be running, but maybe it's getting clogged up and slowing down or overflowing. It's time to get that filter cleaned out and put back together. And while you're doing it, just clean that. If I like to clean my impellers almost every time just to ensure plant roots aren't getting wrapped up around them. Polyfill, if you use polyfill, isn't getting wrapped up around them. Anything like that can stop these impellers, especially things such as sand. If you have certain fish like cichlids that like to spit sand and dig sand up and plume it up in the water column a lot, you're definitely going to want to use a pre-filter on your hanging back to prevent sand getting into them. Because if sand gets in there, it's like a little stone in there for that little impeller. It's going to stop it right now. So, just a quick little tip. If you're going around your fish room, you don't have a lot of time in the mornings before you go to work, or you're ready to go to bed, you had a rough day, you can go around in less than a couple of minutes, check both of these components before you go to bed, and you can rest easy knowing you're not going to have an issue. Now, can you still have an issue in between that time? Of course, absolutely, but at least you're taking some of the danger out of the factor by doing this. And if you can add this into your daily disciplines and you get used to this, you know that you're checking these things and you're not going to have an issue. And that's what I do every morning and night. I go around and check those things, and I make sure everything's running properly. Now, I want to talk about a couple other things that you can do to help make your fish keeping life simple and more enjoyable. I've already done a video on this, and a few other people have too. It's no secret. But let me just turn around and show you. If you run canister filters, you most definitely want to get some of these containers and put under it, because if you have a leak, whether it's coming from the aquastop valves, which is most likely going to be where your leaks are coming from, or the utility valve down below, you're covered. You don't have to worry about water getting on your floor, especially if you have your fish room in a house like I do. This is a major lifesaver. And I learned a tip from Ben Ochart. Take this a step further, and you can get those watchdog alarms that you can put in there, because maybe you're sleeping or maybe you're hanging out and you have a leak and you don't know it. You can set that down to whatever depth you want, and if you have a leak, when that water reaches it, an alarm's going to go off and let you know. That's just another trick that you can do with canister filters, and another trick that you can do to help keep things simpler and catch disaster before it happens. Maybe you're a sponge filter guy, right? Your whole fish room is running on sponge filters and air pumps. A little trick that you can do with those noisy air pumps is you can hang them on a wall. I know they have rubber feet, but sometimes they just move and they just start buzzing. Or maybe you have them on the floor behind your stand and it's buzzing because it moved a little bit. Now it's up against the wall or something else. The best thing that you can do with these air pumps is hang them on the wall. Most of them have little eyelets you can use to do that. Some of them, like the Tetra brand pumps, they don't have any way to hang it, but you can definitely DIY something to hang them up anyways. This does two things for you. One, it gets rid of that buzzing, and two, maybe you don't have check valves installed in your airline, so if there's a power outage, the water can't flow down and go into the pump. If you have it hanging up a wall above the air stone that's in the aquarium, the water's not going to go down and go up into your pump. So hanging on the wall does two things for you like that. I have a couple more quick little tips for you like this that help make things easier and less stressful for you. Let's talk about it. As you can see here, I have a magnetic dry erase board on my fridge. And I use this to keep track of everything I do within my aquariums. The blue is every time I do a water change in all my tanks. The red is every time I do maintenance on my filters. Red is also used as my QT. Green is every time I dose Easy Green and every time I dose Vitachem. You get the idea. It keeps you straight. It keeps you on track. Everything is labeled, so I know what's what, when is when, and what I need to do next. A very simple idea that's going to reduce a lot of headaches and frustration. And lastly, don't overthink things. Don't overthink things to the point you're creating problems. Don't put your hands and your elbows in your tank constantly doing stuff, because this can stress the fish out. And over time, it's going to stress you out too. If you're doing consistent maintenance and water changes, your fish aren't at the surface gasping for air. They're swimming around, they're vibrant, they're healthy, they eat when you feed them, and you're not overfeeding your fish and everything seems fine. Don't worry about every little bump or scale missing that you might see and think you need to go right to the meds. Chill out, relax, be patient. If I worried about every little red bump that shows up in my skin, I'd be in the hospital all the time. So let your fish be fish. Let them live in the environment you have created for them. Make sure your water quality is high. and enjoy the fish. Sit back, relax, and watch them. There's so many things that we can do in this hobby now, and so much information out there that you can get, that it's easier than it ever has been to set up a tank, keep it healthy, keep your fish healthy, and enjoy. Now, if you enjoy working in your aquariums and you like doing a lot of maintenance, maybe you want to think about having multiple tanks. But you don't want your arms and your elbows and your hands always in the tank, changing stuff, moving stuff, messing stuff up, disturbing the substrate, disturbing the fish. Just relax and enjoy the hobby for what it is. If you're having to work in your tank every day and you have issues every day, that's a problem. You need to figure out the root cause, because it just shouldn't be that way. That's it, guys. A quick little video on some helpful quick tips that can help make things a little easier for you in the fish room. You might not have heard of it. I put one out yesterday on an awesome plant holder. You might have caught it. If you didn't, check that out. I'll post it right here so you can watch that. It was really cool. So that's it. Have a good rest of your week. Be safe. I certainly appreciate your time. Leave any comments below if you have anything to add to these quick tips, and give me some advice if you have some. Until next video.